Quadruple-A, the term that Ubisoft came up with to try to justify the price point of Skull and Bones, a live service that was sold for $70 despite the fact that, especially at launch, it was pretty bare bones and feature incomplete, and it did nothing special that made it above and beyond your, AAA games. So people make fun of the term Quadruple-A now, especially given the fact that when Skull and Bones launched, its performance was pretty tepid, the reviews were meager, and people who played the game overall did not have great things to say about the title. It doesn't do anything outstanding to, make it a Quadruple-A experience, whatever the hell that means. And that's another thing. Like, Ubisoft throws around this term Quadruple-A, but its actual meaning remains completely a mystery because it actually doesn't mean anything. It's, some kind of buzzword to try to hype up their own game as something far and above and beyond what anyone else has ever made. But that is plain and simply not true. Ubisoft games are pretty much in line with other games, and many would argue that a lot of Ubisoft games just feel very stale due to the fact that they feel somewhat creatively bankrupt in the way they utilize pretty much the same formula, just with like different coats of paint. And not to say that there aren't people who enjoy Ubisoft games, and that's fine, but Ubisoft is not the first company you would think of when the word innovation is presented. Now, I bring all this up because recently a Ubisoft producer has decided to exaggerate on their resume to a pretty egregious level. You might wake up today to find headlines such as this one that read, Assassin's Creed Shadows and Mirage described as Quadruple-A games by Ubisoft producer. So the producer in question goes by the name Krasimira, and she's someone who's worked at Ubisoft for, according to her LinkedIn, 9 years and 6 months. Starting as a junior associate producer back in 2016, and they've, slowly but surely risen through the ranks. And what people discovered is that reading her summary, there are some pretty egregious exaggerations about the nature of the projects that she worked on, as presented here in this screenshot. Now, that text describing her work experience can be found on her LinkedIn page, but this has since been updated, likely following Backlash. And so I'm going to read you what it originally said before the text was changed to exclude the term Quadruple-A. This is how this Ubisoft producer originally described themselves. Quote, game producer with 13 plus years of experience across Quadruple-A development, strategic partnerships, and media management. Proven record of delivering high-profile projects within complex multi-studio ecosystems and collaborating with leading technology partners. Then she talks about some of the works that she's contributed to, including Assassin's Creed Mirage, the first Quadruple-A title natively released on iPhone and iPad. Assassin's Creed Shadows, the first next-gen Quadruple-A title to launch natively on macOS, released simultaneously with gaming-dedicated platforms such as PlayStation 5, Windows, and Xbox Series X and S. Now, understand that people go to LinkedIn to find potential collaborators, people who have experience in certain fields that will aid in certain endeavor. And nothing will erode trust as much as basically lying on your resume, which is kind of what this is. Saying that you worked on Assassin's Creed Mirage and delivered the first Quadruple-A title natively on iPhone and iPad is like saying that you worked as an executive chef at a first-class restaurant when what you really did was work as a cook at McDonald's. This resume implies that this individual helped pioneer a new echelon of game development and game products. Basically trying to imply that there's no other product like Assassin's Creed Mirage or Assassin's Creed Shadows. There's nothing that comes close because these are the first Quadruple-A titles, and nothing has been at this level. That's plain and simply a lie. Assassin's Creed Mirage is a fine game. It is by no means the most ambitious game ever created. Same thing goes with Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's yet another open-world RPG-style Assassin's Creed game that, sure, some folks might enjoy, but you'd be hard-pressed to call that a Quadruple-A game above and beyond what anyone else has ever made. I mean, you look at Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yotei, and I'd say those games far surpass what Assassin's Creed has attempted, especially in recent years. Hell, if there's one title that comes anywhere close to being Quadruple-A, it's Grand Theft Auto 6. But even then, I'd be hard-pressed to call GTA 6 Quadruple-A. It's just a AAA game that also happens to be probably the most expensive game ever made. If your game goes far and above and beyond GTA 6's level of ambition, maybe, only then would there be the remote chance that you might be able to get away with using the term Quadruple-A. But frankly, I fear about the prospect of a Quadruple-A game because that'll just tank a company. If a game is that expensive, that ambitious, and that high budget, that it's far and above and beyond AAA games like GTA 6, like, that game just can't be made at a reasonable level. So yeah, Quadruple-A really has no meaning. It is just a buzzword to try to spruce up the optics surrounding their games, when in reality, their games are like nothing special compared to some of the best outputs we've seen in the games industry. So yeah, I find this just really kind of gross that Ubisoft is still pushing for the terminology of Quadruple-A and trying to classify their own games as a level above anything AAA, when that is just like a blatant lie. Now, judging by the fact that the term Quadruple-A has been excluded from this summary, it seemed as though this producer got called out to a high enough degree that it forced this individual to remove that terminology. Whereas the old version of the statement said, game producer with 13 plus years of experience across Quadruple-A game development. You can see right here, the Quadruple-A label has been completely removed. Then further downwards, before it said Assassin's Creed Mirage, the first Quadruple-A game released natively on iPhone and iPad. You can see that first bit, the Quadruple-A bit, has been removed, and that just says released natively on iPhone and iPad. And then finally, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Once upon a time, you used to say the first Quadruple-A next-gen title to launch natively on macOS. That Quadruple-A label has since been removed. But it's too little too late. People have already gotten wind of this. They've shared this on social media. People are lambasting Ubisoft and this producer for using the terminology Quadruple-A game at all, especially when their games nowhere near live up to whatever the hell this terminology means. You've got numerous news outlets like this one, as well as this one, reporting on this circumstance, and the end result is that this producer is just being made fun of and also being called out for just straight up lying and exaggerating to such an egregious degree. The term Quadruple-A has as much validity as EA calling loot boxes surprise mechanics and insisting that they're like Kinder eggs and that they're fun and ethical. Just because you came up with that label doesn't mean that label has any meaning, any validity, or any semblance of like it being real whatsoever. This is just the most like imaginary, self-aggrandizing terminology that Ubisoft could have come up with to try to describe their games. The fact that they remotely attempted to even call Skull and Bones a Quadruple-A game and then use that as a justification to price this game at $70 at launch was ridiculous enough. But to call even like Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is a smaller Assassin's Creed game, more in line with like older Assassin's Creed titles in terms of its gameplay systems, to call that a Quadruple-A game, and then to come out and try to say Assassin's Creed Shadows is Quadruple-A as if it's the biggest open world game ever made, the most ambitious, the most reactive, the most whatever, when it's decidedly not, it's just laughable. Game publishers like Ubisoft will go out of their way to come up with bullshit terms to justify their actions, to try to paint themselves as far and above and beyond everyone else. But people see through this bullshit, especially when you're not delivering at a level that warrants any semblance of self-aggrandization. Yeah, I don't know, this is just kind of amusing that this happened at all. And the fact that the term Quadruple-A is garnering the backlash that it is a good sign, in my opinion. I don't think any game company should ever strive for a Quadruple-A. Triple-A is already expensive enough. It's already high budget enough. It's already, burning out developers enough. When making Triple-A game projects is already a struggle, like we do not need another A on top of that to make things worse. What we need is for budgets and teams and scale and ambition and just foresight to be handled better when it comes to game development, because we've seen far too many nightmare situations caused by leadership who have no idea what they're doing, who have their ambitions set far too high for what they can realistically accomplish, and the onus of all of that falls on the ground floor developers who are essentially just doing what the captain tells them to do. The way AAA game projects are handled already feels far too overinflated, and there's some companies who can handle it. Like if you're a Rockstar and a Take-Two, then yeah, sure, because it's Grand Theft Auto we're talking about, but few have the pedigree and the level of growth as an IP and as a studio to be able to handle that level of game development. And not everything needs to strive for that. Again, you look at Expedition 33 and the fact that they were able to kind of on a AA level be able to realize a game that is just so freaking phenomenal that it broke records at the Game Awards goes to highlight that how good your game ends up being is not about how ambitious it is and how high budget it is and how many people are working on it. It's just about having a strong vision and having the exact resources needed and having the exact scale needed to ensure that that vision is realized. I'm not saying companies aren't allowed to push for those grand AAA projects, but you best be damn sure that you know how to handle that. Because otherwise, you as a company will be suffering, development will be a nightmare, workers and developers will suffer, the project will suffer, and then, it's a lose-lose situation. So yeah, screw this whole idea of Quadruple-A, screw that terminology, especially coming from a company that has not produced anything that is far and above the ambitions that we've seen from other similar games from other companies. And I hope this kind of backlash will allow us to eradicate the term Quadruple-A once and for all. People still make fun of it. That terminology is one for the history books, especially the way it was used for Skull and Bones, but may it never actually become a normalized terminology or a normalized ambition. I don't think any game should ever be Quadruple-A when Triple-A is hard and messy enough as it is. But I don't know, that's just one man's take. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on this Ubisoft producer straight up lying and exaggerating in their LinkedIn page and resume, and what you think about the terminology Quadruple-A in general. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.